Okay, so hi, Jason. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Welcome to our show.
Yes, and thank you.
Okay, so let's start with a very quick introduction. I will do my best, and then hopefully you will help me to fix it, because I believe there will be a lot of gaps or misunderstanding. So you, Jason Arbon, are the ex-Microsoft, ex-Google, ex-Applause tester. But last 7 years, you are entrepreneur in testing. May I say that in that way? I don't know.
Yep.
And I would be interested, but we could discuss later whether you are still tester or developer of testing
I'm
tools.
writing tests every day and like literally every day. I write
So
tests
you,
and I'm testing things
okay,
and writing testing code to test code to test code kind of thing.
uh-huh, I see. You are
Pretty much
also author of book or co-author of book, right? How Google
two
tests
books
two books.
plus a
Okay,
self-help book. No, I'm kidding.
okay,
Self-help book.
I see.
Another book on how to grind coffee. Uh,
Really?
no,
No,
sorry.
it's a
I,
joke.
A good one.
you already
Uh,
saw this. I've got a,
uh, so,
uh,
and another thing is that you are also co-chair
mm, yes.
of in the association for artificial intelligence for software testing. I don't know whether this is still alive or how it goes. I was
Mhm.
refreshing the page or exploring the page last days, and it looks very same like I saw it a couple of years ago. So that would be maybe also interesting topic to discuss later.
Sure. Yeah. Hmm.
And I don't know anything about your hobbies, if there are any. Maybe testing is
I
the
don't,
hobby.
I'm not sure I do either, but okay.
So that's it, what I prepared, and hopefully you could enhance and improve and fix what I said.
Okay, I
So who
learned
you
from
are,
watching previous
basically.
ones that I'm not supposed to answer until you've declared yourself finished with the list to be discussed. So, so you ready? Are we
Yeah.
fill it? Okay, you got it right. As my family calls me, like called ex Microsoft ex Google, I'm basically like a serial quitter. Just when my family thinks, oh, he's got a decent job, I quit it. That's basically the story, like kind of literally. That's the way my family sees it. Um,
I like the
and
term serial quitter.
Yeah, yeah. And the serial entrepreneur is don't want to go back to where I quit.
I
But
see.
what else can I possibly do? Um, so yeah, I would say the maybe interesting thing to people about those like uh, is also is that I got into testing because some projects in college, and I was testing the stuff that was supposed to be maybe it's not very politically correct, but stuff that was supposed to work. I did some projects for missile stuff for Lockheed Martin back when I was in school, and
Hmm.
it made me really think about code quality.
Uh-huh.
Like very seriously code quality, like the stuff like satellite communications and the navigation of these things. You want
Uh-huh.
to make sure that the code's good. And so I became kind of obsessed about, and I realized how dangerous code is during that senior project with Lockheed. And so I went that, and so that's kind of went down the testing path was that usually people pretty accidental, but I was pretty deliberate. And I thought it was also, I'll add, which is we're geeking out with test people here, is I think it's the hardest problem on the planet. Like it's actually more difficult than a lot of nuclear physics research, string theory. String
Like
theory
the
is just
code
ways.
quality or
Sorry.
testing.
Yeah,
Are you talking about the code quality or the testing or?
well, all of that. How do you know that the software? I mean, it's the requirements even, right? How do you know requirements are correct? How do you know that the software operates correctly? How do you know that it operates within parameters, within expected contexts? Yeah, we geek out forever. But and software powers our lives so much more than when I graduated college, right? Like it's now like our daily lives are run by software. We're on software right now talking. And
Mhm.
so I think it's also the stakes have gone up much, much higher than I ever even expected. Like it's more, the world runs on software, so we need to make sure the stuff works. But that was a
Yeah,
very,
but
that's
on
sort of
one
a core
side it might
passion
be
around
very,
testing.
very technical. It could be
Sorry?
very technical, so you can easily to judge whether it works or not. But if you look on that from the human perspective, it might be very subjective, whether
100%.
this
Yeah,
is good
exactly.
or not. Yeah.
Yep. Then the subjective stuff is, from a business perspective, almost more important. And then, but I would argue one thing is that the more technical you are on software testing, the harder the problem is. Like the more that you think it's a miracle, the stuff works.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, especially when
Nice.
you have all the entanglement between multiple systems these days. Like the complexity we built into these things is
Mhm.
insane. Like if you wanted to build software to be unreliable, you would probably be doing what we're doing today, in terms of
Mhm.
distributed systems and client server blend software, um, and now AI.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. We will come to AI soon. We will come to AI soon, but
we don't have
let's
to,
keep
but yeah,
keep it in a
yeah.
structure. And so I was asking about the hobby. Do you have any hobbies,
Mm.
or the testing is your hobby as well?
Testing
Okay.
is as actually a hobby. Like on Saturday night at 1 in the morning, I am usually, or Sunday morning or whatever, I'm usually writing some test code, which is embarrassing. But I do like to go on. I like to go to national parks with my kids. Like we drove.
Mhm.
I think we hit like
Mm-hmm.
7 or 8 national parks in the last 12 months. Everything from freezing winter,
Mhm.
hikes to over the Olympics down into the literally I wanted to go. We went to Vegas and Death Valley in the heat of the
Mhm.
summer,
Mm-hmm.
and my kids asked me to leave them in the desert, so I shouldn't probably talk
Really?
about this publicly, but they wanted to be left alone for a little
But you
while.
didn't.
Yeah, of course I did. So, but they took pictures of themselves laying on the ground on the desert sand, reaching for water. Like that was their fun thing. But we went through the one of the highest peaks in the United States and the lowest peaks in the last 12 months. So I would just call that kind of a hobby. But
Oh,
but I don't. Other than that, really not much.
okay. Cool. So nature, traveling, and maybe hiking in nature would be the
Yeah,
short
that sounds
explanation
weird
of
to
that.
say, but yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, okay, I see. Okay, let's move on now to the hot seat questions.
Yeah.
I will let you to run it.
Maybe prepare some question, a seat question that you have to choose maybe one option or to short answer from your side that we can start really quickly. And the first one is, will manual testing still be here in 10 years?
No,
Oh, we have I had the follow question then in 20 years, but don't need to ask you.
no. In
Okay.
20 years, it will come back. That's the sad truth of
Okay.
testing. Uh,
AI or human?
just in general, those two words.
Yeah, that's in
Oh,
general.
that's
AI or
that's
human?
actually a tough one for me because like my profile setting, which everyone really follows, there's always been blending human and machines. So literally like the midpoint. But between the two, I would actually choose AI. I had to make a forced Boolean cast. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Tester or developer?
Tester.
Oh.
I don't know if it's me you're talking about or just in general, but 100% tester. Development's actually pretty boring. You just build what people tell you to build and then hope it works and people just send bugs your way all day. It's pretty lame job actually.
Interesting.
I'm expecting a lot of like feedbacks under the video. Very good.
Yeah, why do you think I've been quiet the last year?
Okay. Corporate or startup?
Oh, 100% startup. Uh, yeah, 99% startup.
Okay. Good.
But every large corporate
Well,
can is a startup, so
mm-hmm.
kind of the ultimate goal of every startup in a weird way. So it's entangled. But yeah,
Okay. And what was the last time that you created or reported a defect?
to somebody other than myself,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually being serious. Like I'm not being like, yeah. It was a couple months ago. I filed a bug with OpenAI on their API,
Mm-hmm.
and they I wrote actually a little blog post on it. It's kind of fun because I had the AI like I found the bug.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about it or not, but probably not. But details. But I started writing up the description for it, right? Of like why they should fix it and why it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I just DM'd the API guy on Twitter or whatever. But I had sorry, GPT write the bug report and the justification, and it was actually had a point in there that I didn't think about, and it was far more articulate than me. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was the first time I think maybe in the history of the planet that I'm aware of um, where the AI actually technically kind of filed the bug against itself, and then the humans decide to fix it. So the humans are actually now at the
Mm-hmm.
whim of the kind of the AI in a way. It's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the first. That was the last probably external bug I filed of interest.
Okay, good. Microsoft or Google?
It's a Boolean, right? I mean,
Yeah. Sorry for this question, but we have to do
no,
it.
this is good. Sorry, and then we're asking today in 2024, Microsoft. That was easy.
Ah,
Sorry, I was trying to
okay.
integrate over time. Yeah,
Okay. And I will additional one, probably last one, the ChatGPT or Bard.
ChatGPT.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
And that's it. It looks that
that
I
was
have to
easy.
prepare next time better because you are absolutely okay. That it looks that there are not really hot seats that I have to improve it for the
I
next
just
time. But
well, it's just I have no shame, dignity.
Okay,
So we're
now
just
it's the time to move on. Time
yeah,
to move
yeah.
on because
all right. If
I
over the next
found
15 minutes, if you think of some new ones, write some more other ones down. I'm happy to. Those are kind of fun. Quick fire things.
so
Yeah.
I was doing some research to make it sound cool, and I found that you quit Google in 2011, December 2011,
Oh,
right?
you found that?
It was on
You're
your LinkedIn
you're
profile. It's not
Yeah,
so
yeah.
complicated, but there is a
you
follow-up question. Is
yeah.
that correct or not?
Oh, was that correct? Yeah, actually, it's crazier than that. I'll give you the tease. The real tease is this. So I started a startup. I was working at Bing back when it was MSN Search and just converted to Bing, I think, at the time. Back in the day. It was a small team. And we were actually, funny thing, we were using AI and Google wasn't using AI at that point. That was kind of funny. But anyway,
Hmm.
um, inside baseball. But yeah, I created a personalized web search thing because I was so frustrated that my dad would get the same search results that I did. That was ridiculous. And my dad was searching for, like, I would search for, say, Bush, right? And I wanted like Bush the band. And instead, I got Bush the president. And my dad's a gardener. So he wanted like
Hmm.
bushes with things with leaves.
Yeah.
And so I thought I wanted to solve that problem so that web search was actually personalized for everybody back in the filter bubble kind of days. Um, yeah, and then I actually, funny thing, I still own that IP, that kind of core IP, whatever it matters. But the financial crisis hit, and um, it's a long story. It's got an entrepreneurial story. But I ended up going to Google and working on. I didn't talk about it publicly. I worked on search. I had a team on the search team
Hmm.
or at Google, which is very
And
rare.
was the James Whittaker your boss or not?
Yeah,
How?
yeah, for part of the time. And actually, yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely for most of the time. Yeah, but I also had a
Okay,
team that
because
was not in testing, like it was just in the search team. It was a weird arrangement.
yeah, because
Mhm.
there was in October 2011 there was a conference, Google Test Automation Conference. I don't know
Yeah,
whether
GTAC.
you
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
GTAC. And I found one funny video, and I would like to share 30 seconds or so with
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
and then I would like to discuss that.
I think I know what this
Let,
is. I think this is.
sorry?
Was I wearing? Was it a onesie or a bikini?
Let's
Sorry,
see.
go ahead. I have a lot of dark history videos.
Yeah.
We all
Where is
do.
the right? This should be the entire screen.
Is this the test is dead thing?
Okay,
Crazy.
you're guessing right, but I would like to share it with other
Yeah, yeah.
audience. So this is the video.
Mhm. Yeah, I shared an office with James for a long time. I actually used his when I was at Microsoft. His college kids were interns on my team.
Okay, so now I
Yeah,
stop it. Hopefully now you can't see that, right?
yeah, I can't see it. Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so now we can continue. So this is one of the video from the conference, and Google had this keynote about testing is dead on
Hmm.
that time.
Yeah.
And now we are 13 years from there,
Hmm.
and not too much
You're
in
wrong.
that area
You're
happened.
wrong. Actually, so this is what I'm saying. Unless you're wrong, I have an opinion. Usually, people like to bring that up in the sense that, oh, I'm still here. Number one, the best thing ever. If there's only one line answer to that, it's called survivor bias. If you're familiar with the survivor bias thing,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
quick, like for everybody that doesn't know, it's basically I don't remember basically the story is that there's one story of survivor bias, which is like in one of the wars. People like to have wars, I guess. But in one of the wars, the airplanes that came back were all shot up, right? And so they realized they were shot up like in certain parts of the plane. So they were thinking about making those parts of the plane stronger because they were getting shot up. The
Uh-huh,
problem was those were the holes that were okay to get shot up in because the people came.
uh-huh.
If you got shot at the other places, you didn't come back. So the fact that that plane survived, or that a tester in this mapping, a tester has survived today, doesn't mean that a bunch of other people are not testers any longer. It also, by the way, doesn't account for all the testers that should be around us. And look at us.
Uh-huh.
Are we all spring chickens?
Probably
Not
not.
really. Look at the
Yeah.
conferences. Look at the talks. James in those old videos, James looks like a spring chicken now.
Mm.
So my key point is that the test instead is interesting. I used to go on walks with James as a as a as a as a shallow copy of the talks that Zuckerberg would give people around the Facebook campus to try to think we're cool.
Mhm.
But we talk about this thing, these meta kind of problems all the time, and a lot of that stuff came from the core notion that talk. It's like a whole thing, but like um, improvements in engineering process and CI/CD and observability and all these types of things. We're going to take up a lot of, we're going to improve software, by the way, without testing help. It's just going to make software better. But it's also going to like relieve a lot of the burden on testing because these things are coming into existence and they were newer back then. So the idea is when I propose on this, I haven't really said it much, but I see it a lot of time. People think this is that, oh, it's not dead. If you look at how much more software there is, just the growth in market cap of Microsoft and Google alone,
Mhm.
and if they
Yeah.
if they kept the same percentage of testers, there should be hundreds, millions more testers. We should do the math. There should be millions more testers than there are. Instead, a lot
Mhm.
of us are aging in place. And it's funny because the teams that don't need those testers, where test is dead. See, this is why I
Mhm.
can't get on the internet, guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
Um, I will
So
have
so
no friends ever.
if
But here's the thing, Marcel. Sorry. The thing is that um, all those teams should have testers, and they don't anymore. They're not there. But the teams that want humans, that need humans because they haven't adopted all that latest technology,
Mhm.
still need human beings. So I
Mhm.
think it's a huge survivor bias thing, and like literally just look at the math. Percentage of people that are doing testing, testing grows the CAGR, the growth year over year as an entrepreneur. Total money spent on software testing services is like growing at like I think it's an 11% rate this year. It was like
Yeah, it, Mhm.
20% maybe like 6 years ago. You know these numbers.
Yeah, yeah,
Guess
yeah.
what the overall growth in tech is? And just big,
Yeah, but
slow growing tech.
you
It's over
know, it,
20% still.
I think the metric which says 20 to 40% of all the spending in IT, it goes to quality assurance. Okay, it's changing what and how we are doing this
And
quality
Gartner plays
assurance
with the
and testing.
numbers based on which report they're doing. So like sometimes they count developer activities that are related to testing. And most developers actually spend probably like 40% of their time testing locally. Make a change, try it, make a change,
Yeah,
try
yeah,
it out.
yeah. But my
So
point is that this trend is not did not change for
Mhm.
past couple of years. When you ask or check the reports and analysis, you
no,
you
it
see
has. It used to be
that.
20. No, it used to be 20. used to be depending on Gartner or whoever you're listening to, it was like between
Hmm.
20 and 23% about 4 or 5 years ago. I had to make a pitch deck and get through VC analysis and all that stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and um, and that number's been dropping about 1.5–2% a year for the last like
Okay, this
years.
is interesting. If you have any source for that, I would like to see that because I felt like this is all for the
But the
longer
problem is,
time.
yeah. So then and if you look at the reports, they also anyway they mess with the numbers because it's a product.
Yeah,
The data is a product, and so like here's the best one. I'll give a question back to you, like these quick challenge. So you've
yeah.
seen all the Gartner reports, right? That like guess what? 70 something percent of testers are using AI today.
Yes, and this is, but
Before ChatGPT, by the way, too.
yeah, I think it's bullshit, and we could see such a bullshit on many places because if you
Probably
look
like
on the reports,
5%,
sometimes you could see the small
or maybe like
letters, and they ask
3.
about, are you using or planning to use these
Yeah,
tools?
they're all
So,
scammed. Yeah.
uh,
Yep. Because then
and
because then all the companies have to pay them to get the data on how people are planning to use AI. And
yeah, yeah.
it's a
And the key point you said in that topic was that they data are they product.
Mm.
So if they wanna improve their product, they need to be slightly influenced by the vendors who are trying to sell something to the market.
everyone they're selling stuff to the vendors who are selling stuff to people and the people don't want to like people also self-report strangely because they don't want to say that they're not up the cutting edge.
Hmm.
Like so they'll make stuff up too. Like they'll lie to themselves. It's a so those numbers
Okay.
are very cagey at best. But the
Yeah, yeah.
ones that have been consistent and persistent over time, it's the percentage of spend on QA has actually been dropping. And if I'm
I
trying to
have,
raise money, I shouldn't be telling the world that, but it's just the reality.
yeah,
Anyway, sorry.
I'll ask you the last question in this section about the testing is dead and future and so on. So
Mhm.
what do you think? What is going on out there and where we will end up? Or you said in 10 years there
Mm.
won't be humans in test, or there
Oh,
won't be manual
so
testing.
bad. Humans.
You said manual testing is not here anymore in 10 years. You said that in
Yeah,
that
but
quick
I have a
questions.
couple snarky ways to answer that.
Yeah, I know. So what if you would now try, if you would now have the chance to fix it or
Mhm.
improve or give some more details, what will happen in next 10 years? What
Well,
do you
one is
think?
I think everyone has the bias. Like it's in this question in general in our space is thoroughly unexplored because people like they just start the question and thinking about themselves as if, well, how do I maintain my job? How do I survive? And then they
Hmm.
think about
Mhm.
answering the question. So there's an incredibly huge, strong bias toward that we'll always need people. Um,
And
I
are you
think that
biased with that? Your opinion? Do you think that you don't know because you are too influenced by your kind of
no, and I think but people will always assume that. But and we can get to it like what kind of triggered us to maybe reconnect it was reason for this was I'm actually building some stuff for human testers to try to help them be better testers. Like I'm trying to help. There's evidence that I'm trying to help these humans that don't really want to be helped. But when it comes to are there going to be manual testers in the future? The reality is that people are going to rename themselves anyway. I actually think that's
Mhm.
so when you do the query manual testers, there actually won't
Mhm.
be because the manual testers themselves, which is breaks my heart because I'm a manual tester. You look at the Google book I worked on. I'm a manual testing manager or lead. I didn't care what my title was, but that's what was in the book. And my actual title at Google was social engineer. But I got in trouble because I also wasn't even checking any code in because that wasn't the hard problem. Um, so anyway, so one is the testers are redefining themselves. They think it's an ugly word. They think manual testing is an ugly word, and I think it's an art form if done well. And ironically, I sound like a Bach or a Bolton, but that it deviates very quickly from there. But
I
I
didn't
think
plan to open this
Mhm.
topic, but
no,
I'm
no, no.
happy to
We
discuss
can
that.
talk about it, but it's not even really big deal to me. It's I think it's an art form when done really, really well. It's the hardest problem. It will be the last thing to be automated is the great human tester. Well, I think that will happen though. I absolutely do. I think like we're like since if we talked like a year ago in the last year, it's starting to do protein folding now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like protein folding. I don't know, like Microsoft, there was some, I don't know if it's market aware, but like, Microsoft had some headline yesterday that, or 2 days ago that, not that matter, that their AIs figured out a new chemical to replace lithium in electrical
Uh-huh.
batteries. And I'll add, the best one came out just 2 days ago from the Codium AI guys. I don't know if you've seen this. Um,
Yeah, I saw you share something,
yeah,
but I didn't follow the details yet.
guess what the paper does? Just let me tell you, and then we'll come back to the question, original question. I think it's
Mhm.
context to think
Yeah.
about. So I've thought that what they're kind of working on would eventually happen. I thought it might be like next year, even not this year. And I'm like an optimist. And but what it does is it generates code. But think about this. It's back to that test is dead too context. It generates the code to solve some problem, right? It can create classes and
Mhm.
functions, whatever.
Mhm.
But rather than just like with today with Copilot, right, with Microsoft's Copilot or something, it'll help you complete functions and stuff like that.
Mhm.
What it does is it takes the problem and then it creates code to solve the problem, some mathematical, some IO function, right? Cool, crazy thing is what their paper does, and it's brilliant. I think it's totally underrated right now, is that it generates several different possible implementations. It works with the LLMs to come up with different implementations of the code, right? The problem with every
Mhm.
tester complaining about AI is like, I didn't give it very much information and it gave me a very poor answer, which is like how humans work too. And it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
reveals the sophistication of the user, really. But in this case, the AI interacts with itself in its own state, and it regressively iterates on itself. So it'll create permutations of itself, almost like a genetic algorithm, but it's not really. But like, and then it'll generate the test for those IO
Mhm.
functions, each individual modular part, and then it will take the one that passes the test it generated. And if it doesn't pass the tests, it goes back and generates more permutations until it generates tests for those that finally pass.
Mhm.
Does that eventually go awry? Yeah, but that's shift left software testing. Back to the test is dead. Like we talk about humans and process and training and getting the developers to care and testers, SDETs to get further up and shift left way up into
Mhm.
development. This is as the code is being conceived and generated before it's persisted to disk, right? Is being permutated and tested. That's like the most,
Mhm.
what's our dream as testers. We thought this should happen ideally, right? But it
Mhm.
will never happen. But it's happening today. There's a paper written on
Mhm.
it. Codium guys are legit. And
Yeah.
it happened just in the last
So
couple of days.
what will happen then to the
So,
testers, if I could say that, or
so
the?
I think, yeah, so I think if you look at like that 10-year time frame ish, I mean, who knows what really the time frame is? It's not 20 though. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure about
I
that.
see.
Actually, there's some
Okay.
good curves. I've done some little bit of work and presentations on this, recycling other people's actual intellectual work. But you can kind of predict how it's been the compute capacity of the planet in terms of like machine compute has been growing exponentially on a very, very predictable curve, regardless of
Mhm.
Moore's law stuff. And now it's keeping advancing and advancing, and we have
Mhm.
so with different chip architectures and software and
Mhm.
now how fast is an LLM that now does things that we couldn't have even done before? Didn't make
Mhm.
wasn't even like a dream. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
But you
the
see
point
that,
is
now is a lot of opinions, that AI is not like, removing or, replacing, people, and especially the manual testers, because, a lot of like testing experts still, trying or sharing the opinion that, that we don't need to more, test automation or test engineers, because it will be enough to have some manual testers, maybe from offshores, give them some AI, and you will have like super powerful supermans that I
okay. So
don't
here's
know
the thing.
if it's really
Okay, look
true.
at people. Let's be like painfully real for 2 seconds. Okay, look at the credentials. Now I know that you know that's I don't come from an Ivy League school, okay? I don't. I went to University of Utah. So I'm not at the top of this list. So I'm not biased in that sense. Look at the credentials and not even by credentials, I don't mean like school credentials. What they've done, like what they've actually built or accomplished, or their track record in predicting the future is. And see,
Mhm.
and you stack those up, and the people that think things are changing very quickly, um, and uh, and that and then the ones that think it's just going to be the same, that also have a bias in that fight, in that
Mhm.
argument, in that thinking. Um, it, it's very clear to me what the answer is, but it's okay if people want to believe that. I'm okay with that. To be clear, I'm fine with it. I'm not going to fight. I've tried to argue a little bit. It goes back to the philosophical stuff a little bit of testing, but if people want to believe that, it's okay. And like, there's this best quote I read the other day, which was that he said, like, no matter what you do and you tell people, like, there's always going to be, like, I don't know what it is, 3% of people that are flat earthers. They just are. Like, it's just, and guess what? They're very vocal. The people that think the earth is round are usually pretty quiet. And they're also launching stuff into space. Like, so you kind of start to ignore the flat earthers. And I apologize for offending the flat earthers that are also testers. That may be a large Venn diagram overlap. But no, I think the jobs that will be taken away, the real story is actually pretty good for, if you're a great manual tester, you're the last one to be replaced. Because all the energy and money and progress has been in replacing software engineering. Even the thing I just mentioned with Codium, right? And Microsoft's Copilot, Google has their own code gen stuff that's fantastic and getting better exponentially, and so improvably
There's
exponentially.
plenty of such a tool for the code gen nowadays. So
Right,
I
right. So
know
so
this also.
guess who's gonna be losing jobs more dramatically? It's gonna be the developers. Will it eventually get to the testers? Yeah, it's already starting to get to the SDETs, the API testers, with the stuff we're talking about from Codium. But it's going to encroach. But here's the beautiful thing. Bear with me. You appreciate this. This is all lead up to this. I do believe that in 10 years, you will need very few. I think, by the way, most software will be written for robots, not for humans to click. That's embarrassingly Stonehenge-like, right? Most software will be written for other robots. And so they can do their own thing by themselves without humans. But the last person to go will be a human that says ship or not ship. That may be the ENG director, but right before that will be the tester, and before that will be all the engineers. I believe that's the way it's going to come. So we'll have a lot of warning in the testing world, but I do think it's going to happen. But when that even gets close to being that, dynamics of the economy and world politics and security in general even is going to be, these things are technologies are integrated into, back to like time at Lockheed, like weapon systems and political game theory and things like that. It's going to get more dangerous than, like, the last thing we'll be worried about by the time most software testers lose their job, we'll have many other things to worry about, and probably though also matched with a lot of other cool things to do, but nobody knows. If anyone says they know, they don't know. That's the biggest thing. The people that say that you can't get rid of the manual tester, they actually can't know that. Like, nobody can know that. They claim they know that. So it's obvious.
So let's see how it'll end up. It looks like it's a bit blurry in a future. Maybe as I said, I'm trying to fit it into 1 hour at least. So let's now move on.
Yeah. You're supposed to just like this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and the next one would be you are building some new cool stuff, and I would like to see how it works. And we discussed it before during the preparation that we will do some quick demo. So would you like to share me my screen and let's play with that, or
Yes, sir. Thank you.
or you will do this, do the magic?
Jeremy, that's the future.
Okay. Yeah. No problem. No problem. If it doesn't work, I will share my screen because I have installed your
It's the
plugin.
old one. You know that. That would break my heart. That would break my heart. All this work I did over the holidays. Oh, no, that's not it. Okay, hold on. I know what to do. All right, now we're gonna pretend like that just took like a second or something. So this is what you were talking about. To be clear, I've actually worked on a bunch of other stuff. I was inspired, for quick context for this, it was Richard Bradshaw over at Ministry of Test, like a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
He now independent, or he's doing something. No, he's doing another gig now. But he was complaining, to be very clear, this is my apology for the bias that people think I have. He was saying like, hey, none of these AI vendors are all working on automation. How about helping testers? How about helping exploratory manual testers, right?
Mhm.
And I've seen a couple of people complain about that. So I reached out to him like, what do you want? And he kind of gave me a one-liner, which wasn't a spec, but I said,
Mhm.
I am a manual tester by trade, and I love it, and I do it all the time as a hobby. And let's see if we can figure something out, right? So I did the most obvious
Mhm.
thing
Mhm.
and just started sharing it out a little bit on the LinkedIn world. But so here's the Chrome extension, right? Because everybody has a
Mhm.
browser, and
Mhm.
so you install the Chrome extension, and then we'll see if it works. Okay, it's starting to work. So
We
it's
cannot
scanning the
still
page.
see
You can't see the extension.
now. Now I could see the green.
Yeah.
Can you see the robot heads and stuff?
No.
Mm-mm.
Probably you need to share the entire screen, otherwise it won't
No,
work.
it will only share the tab. So yeah, I'd probably have to
Or
share the entire screen.
maybe
No, I can do that.
embed
I could try to do that. Like
embed the tab.
stop
Make it
sharing.
like a window where there are no other tabs, so we can see only the window, and then share the window.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Let's see.
This is
Um,
like practicing to share the screen.
oh, you know what?
No.
Forget that. If we flash something dangerous, life goes on. Live a little. Um,
Yeah. We could cut it out
pictures you
somehow.
sent me, Marcel, if it was the pictures you sent me a couple weeks ago, you can just edit it out. All right. See Google?
Yeah, now
Yeah,
we can
it's,
The whole
see
screen, right? All
almost
right.
everything. Almost what you have in your fridge.
yeah.
You can actually look at here's all my code.
Yeah.
Those are my code windows.
Whew. Very good.
I'm actually
Multitasking.
really boring. Um, so let's see. Okay, so we're just gonna go here. So we launched the extension on, say, Google. Everyone knows what that is. You saw it was kind of scanning the elements in the page and stuff.
Hmm.
What you've seen here is across the top, we've got a bunch of little robots, little robot heads. The idea is that the tester is testing google.com or some other website, and they want assistance, right? They want the AI to help them with their testing. This is what people have asked. And so this is an experiment to see if people care, if it's useful, and whatever. So, but trying to make it as super
Hmm.
easy as possible. It also helps trying to solve the problem of all of the strange, the feigned helplessness sometimes on LinkedIn and Twitter of people asking, doing very poor prompting, I would say. So imagine you
Hmm.
basically get good prompting and it's in context. So you don't have to copy paste, you don't have to think about the prompt. It just kind of does it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Behind the scenes, it's an LLM. It's actually two different LLMs, but that's another story. So you've got different bots. So this bot does breaking things. He tries to break your website. He comes up with ideas that would probably break the website, right? Not the happy
Hmm.
path. This guy will look for bugs, right? I won't go through them all, but he'll look for problems in the page. Um, Crazy just comes up with crazy test cases. They're kind of fun from a nerd perspective. Like, oh,
Hmm.
I never thought of that. Edge was something that people specifically asked for because they want edge. They want crazy test cases, but ones that would be reasonable. If they find a bug with it, then they go, oh, that's an edge case, but they would still file it, right?
Hmm.
It's not something ridiculous, but it's still kind of on the edge. Um, and so what we'll see here is this is what the Edge bot says about the Google homepage. So the idea is to give you some in context with we only clicked it once, right? That's all we did. AI does all the other stuff. But you can see here, and I'm working on the formatting because you're getting a live version of this. But so it says searching for an extremely long query. So it's telling the tester, hey, try a really long query, right? Some newbie testers, right, or some freshies may not think about doing that, right? And then you think, well, how long should it be, right? How many characters is that? It gives you a quick copy paste string. You can just copy paste in to make it quick to try a long query. And it tells
Hmm.
you in here too, gives you hints on like what you should look for, right? Like any slowdown or issues in processing the long search and response times or crashes, right? So it can
Hmm.
give some basic kind of information of like here what's and it also we'll see that in a second, but it'll tell you like what's some ideas of what's crazy to do. Another one was like I thought was interesting that I had never thought of myself. I wrote a quick article about this, but clicking, right? So it says click the store link multiple times rapidly. And I was going like, okay, that's kind of dorky, maybe. Even me, I'm like, I've been around the block a bit, and I used to work on Google at Google, and I'm like, that's a little weird. But the funny thing is, I clicked it a few times, and it was way less response. Like it only responds to the last click, it seems like. But then I view sourcing the code too as a nerd, and Google's got their homepage used to be very vanilla. It's got like all this obfuscated JavaScript and custom event handlers and tracking and stuff like that in it now. And so it's always that click is actually handled by a bunch of JavaScript convoluted code and third party. I mean, not third party, but pings back to the server and stuff like that. So clicking it multiple times could cause some issues. It's kind of an interesting one. But you keep going down here, search for a non-existent URL. Like people, when they're usually searching, they're searching for something they know, right? This should be there, but think about the opposite of that. So that may give, again, testers some thoughts. And then lastly, this was a fun one, was this, it says, search for like this query, right? Which is a quick snippet of CSS. But it was hilariously nerdy funny to me as a test nerd, is that I just hit run. The first time I hit run on this bot, right? On the Google homepage, it sent that back. And guess what happened? My whole extension went red in the background. And I was like I was searching through the code looking for the string red, and I couldn't find it except the substrings of other strings. And so I looked for like different variations of quoted red. It was because I wasn't escaping the very code in the extension. And so it messed up my CSS of my extension. So it found a bug in itself, which is kind of fun. And you can go on and on and on. And there's just, you can pages of these things that are interesting. So that's the basics of the extension we talked about. And lastly, it might
what would be next stage with this? Because it looks like it could catch some simple, pretty technical bugs. Do you have some idea how to develop it further or how to evolve this?
No, none. I'm kidding. Yeah. So one is this little thing here. One is you can also type in whatever you want here. So like, I don't know, ignore links and be really edgy. Do you know what I mean? And guess what it does? It modifies the prompt. And now you can, like you were saying, you want to be more edgy, you want to find weirder things or focus on images or a search box or timing of things. You can just type it in there and it will use that to influence the response. So that runs today in the new version that I haven't pushed. There's another tab here, which if you're asking, it's a whole other thing here. You can imagine where this is going, but you can create a test plan here. So I want to focus on monetizable things or just look for bugs or happy paths, right? And then you come in here and you hit play and it will generate test cases. And when you click these little nodes, they'll go back 90% of their work now, but I don't want to risk it. But you click that and it will come back and generate more and more and more granular and more permutations of test cases. So you can very quickly generate hundreds or thousands of tests, but in the areas that you want them to be generated. And again, testers like you're responding to are saying like, just when they see the screenshot, they're like, oh, well, that'll do the simple stuff. But what about the really hard stuff? Either of you, I told you to ask you some questions. Have either of you rapidly clicked a link in the browser in your testing work in the last 6 months? Like click it as fast as you can, many, many times.
Is it like how this happened? Like how?
No, I'm saying, like, this is what I think there's a bias with testers say, oh, well, that would just do the basic stuff. I'm telling you, this generates a test that said click the store link multiple times rapidly. And I'm like, I hadn't thought of that myself. But have you done this test?
No.
You have?
No, not really. I wouldn't even consider that. But the idea here is that usually the complex scenarios are like multiple.
Okay. So this is where we part paths. Just for a quick sec, though. You deal with the reality of this all the time, though, right? I mean, with your own company and people's expectations. I don't know how to. Oh, here. Oh, hold on. Oh, I don't know how to cancel the full screen recording.
Don't left the call.
Yeah, via share you can stop it.
So
you know which I can't stop.
There is a stop sharing on the below. Below there is a button now. Stop sharing.
Oh boy,
like there is the bar.
Like just like Google Meet. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Okay, done.
Yeah.
So let me challenge you back real quick on this. Okay. So you've had the initial tester reaction. This is why I also have been engaging a lot lately. Is that you immediately go like, oh, but there's only things that I could do. You've looked at it for 5 seconds. It's come up with something you hadn't thought of. I can tell you technically, I think it's an interesting
Uh-huh.
case.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't even see the rest of it scrolling through there. How do you know
Yeah.
there's not complex flows and scenarios in there?
I don't know.
How do
You
you
are
know
Mm-hmm.
that
right.
like, there's
You are right.
20 different bots at the top there?
Yeah.
That's
I'm
true.
saying it.
Yeah.
One of them's, guess what one of them's called? User flows.
Yeah. I
And
see.
guess what it can
Okay.
define?
Yeah.
And then the other
User
feature,
flow. And you can
uh,
say, with the little text box, bear with me, hold on, before we get the biological reaction real quick.
yeah, yeah.
You can say, make them really complex. And it's very
Uh-huh.
technically difficult. And then guess what the AI is doing right now? It makes some
Okay.
pretty complex
Mm-hmm.
user flow. And by the way,
Damn.
faster and cheaper than you would have done it
Yeah, yeah.
as a
That's
human.
that's pretty cool. What you did
Anyway,
now, you just inspired me to retest that plugin because I was or extension or whatever they call it in Google,
yeah,
because I was playing with that. If you remember, I sent you some feedback on
yeah,
that.
yeah, it was good. Yeah.
And what about the? And I have the opportunity now to ask the same question. Any
Yeah.
updates on this storing the interesting ones? Because I feel like it's great brainstorming, and then I would
Mhm.
like to store some set of top 15 or something like these
Yep.
are the
Mm-hmm.
ones I would like to pick up
Yes. So that's
and
that was a
store it in
good.
my folder.
Yep.
Sorry?
We're gonna have fun here today. You kind of made me demo, so I'll give you the full demo back. Is so yeah, you had a great suggestion on like adding history, and I think
Yeah,
you also were talking about like can you just export a test either as like to a
yeah,
test case management system or something, or copy paste it easily, which can, but or the other one was export the Selenium for it or something, right?
yeah. The automation stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the automation stuff. So number one, so here's the funny thing where I think testing is going, and this is what I'm focused on at least.
Uh-huh.
So the whole phrase like if you ask somebody they want just faster horses or whatever instead of cars, that's kind of where I feel we're at right now. So you as a human want the history. AI doesn't have a problem. They remember everything. They can get to it almost instantaneously. The AI is not
Yeah,
asking me for more history context.
yeah,
But
yeah, I know,
here's the
but
thing.
there
What,
is in testing, and you might say that you might say I'm wrong, but what we do usually, there are two approaches. One is exploratory,
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes
Oh,
you have
yeah, yeah,
some set of test cases you want to repeat
100%.
again and again and again. And
I've been it.
maybe this
100%.
is,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So for
100%.
that approach where I want to repeat and to be consistent
Ah,
after each and
but
every
where
release.
you want to. So here's what I will say though. So this
Yeah.
is experimenting to see how the community interacts with this stuff. They've asked for
Hmm.
stuff like that to help them.
Hmm.
Guess what else? I would appreciate some reciprocation and help. You've had some feature requests. But also, guess
Okay.
what? A lot of the feedback is, and I'll just be very frank, a lot of the feedback from human testers is they
Mm-hmm.
say they want something to help them, but they don't really engage the stuff. You can talk to this, Marcel, a little bit,
Uh-huh.
but uh but use it with some optimism. If you want to test it, it will never be
Uh-huh.
perfect. Humans
Yeah,
aren't
yeah,
perfect. They kind of suck
yeah, but
actually.
this is what I found when you talk to the testers because I'm building also tool.
Yeah, yeah.
So the first reaction from the tester is, I will test it and I will report you all the bugs. I
Yeah,
will tell
it's
you
like,
what's wrong with that.
thanks. Like, by
But
the way, I
that's
know of
our
100
typical
more that you don't
approach.
know about,
And
and yeah, you don't. Nobody buys a bug
uh,
report, really, right? At the end of the day. So
yeah,
here's the
okay.
thing. So the question, though. So here's the thing. The question is this. The question is, um, I am happy, obviously, to spend even my free time, paid time, really, even to work on this. I actually really want to help manual testers, exploratory testers with
Mhm.
AI. But that needs to be reciprocated, to be frank. Because do I wake up every morning? And when I wake up, because I've got to wake up every morning. And by the way, every AI company, including yours, has got to ask and answer this question, which is, who am I going to try to help? Right? The tester that files me a bunch of bugs and then just assumes immediately that, oh, well, it won't do complex scenarios, or it can't do this, or it wouldn't do this, rather than even giving
Mhm.
it like more
Mhm.
than 20
Mm-hmm.
seconds of trying. Or the AI, because here's a funny thing in that extension. What if it didn't wait for the human to click the button to generate the more test cases and it just executed them?
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
I
so
see.
like the demand from the human side's got to be pretty strong to warrant, taking something that works in the order of hundreds of milliseconds and slow it down to like they go home at night and sleep.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, so I think
To
this is what
keep
my
up
main.
with that.
So I think
Yeah.
there's going to be like they talk about digital. I think there's going to be an AI divide coming. And that's a concern. I'm actually very worried about it. Is that is that people, the humans that should benefit from AI, won't try it out. They just won't get in the car. They're just going to stay on their horse. They'll never get in the car because it's dangerous and loud and noisy.
Yeah,
And then
yeah, okay,
they
I
just,
see.
and they just won't be driving. And they'll,
So
people live
you,
their life of never having been in a car. It's okay.
this
But I
is
think there's
this
this
is
common
something what
divide.
I really like. You are saying I don't care about the ones who are skeptical. They could stay with their horses or
Well,
how.
I mean, I want to.
That's
I'm
really
not
good.
from like dramatic gestures and holding my heart. I want to, but I can't really like you can't drag a horse and make it drink. I can bring it to the
Mhm.
water. Like right now, what I just demoed, and this is a minor part of what I'm building actually. The other stuff is just fully automated. Why have the human in the loop? I'm trying to let the humans into the loop,
Mhm.
but if they won't dive in, I can't help them. I can't make them dive in.
Okay, I
And
see. So
but I think that's
what are
what's
if I would
happening now. Even with
if
you
I
two,
would
and you're like an AI nerd, AI developer, like working on automation tools and all stuff, and you're going like, you see,
yeah,
what
but
about that? Oh, what about that? Like,
yeah, but I know these questions I'm getting as well. What about these complex scenarios? How you will deal with
100%.
that or that? So
But,
I'm just
but,
passing
Yeah.
the
right.
same.
But if the AI can just do it all in a loop, like even the Codium stuff, forget what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
That Codium
Mhm.
stuff at the API kind of unit test level, that we wouldn't have, like everyone wants to ignore that. Everyone in the community, no one in the testing community will follow up on that paper.
Hmm.
It's published,
Mhm.
it's open source, Stephen, but no one will follow up because they're worried about it. So I
Okay.
genuinely worry about those people, like because they say they're stressed, but they won't take any medicine. But I worry about them because they're stressed. But I can't also reach out through the Ethernet and grab them and help them, make them install an extension, make them give feedback.
Mhm.
Say, hey, what about even if there were no complex scenarios? Well, guess what? If somebody sent me a doggy treat and maybe a Starbucks coupon, I could probably get a bot that would do what they want, but they're
Okay.
just going to
So
talk. I listened,
last question.
ranted.
Last
I was in the
question in this.
Ministry of Tests this morning. This is where I'm going to get banned from the internet.
Uh,
I was on
The
that
last
podcast
question.
this morning,
Last question
and
in this topic, and
they're
that
talking
would
about
be.
sharing information within the organization. Not, but they're worried about AI. But all they do is talk about how to build reports. Go ahead. Sorry.
I see. So what are the next plans of this? Is it
yeah.
voluntarily like a hobby project or
No,
some
no, no, no. I'm
Yeah,
this,
because
what's not a
isn't it?
hobby? I'm 100%. I'm working more now than I did at Test AI, and
Mhm.
I know that right now my bots deliver more value than I built with 30 million from Google at Test AI. And but the funny thing is I don't. I have an interesting thesis. I don't think the world will actually take this incrementally. So I have to think about go to market, fundraising,
Hmm.
even team building, all that stuff. And I want to get all the technical major hurdles out of the way before I hit the gas. This time, last time
Hmm.
I didn't. I'm like,
And it's
press
purely
the button
your
and then try to
project.
figure out what to do. I want to figure out what's going on and then hit the gas
Uh-huh.
with go to market money.
Hmm.
So are you working solo on that, or do you
Yeah.
have some other
No, with
colleagues?
20 other people,
Uh-huh.
but they're
Wow.
not on LinkedIn. They're LLMs.
So they're not people then. It's
No, I gave last year. I told myself I would only collaborate with. God, I sound like a crazy. I should be in a cabin somewhere, writing a manifesto. But I committed myself to only work with robots with AI all last year, all calendar year. Um,
And
and I didn't
and
want
what
to be
is
influenced by humans that want history
Mhm.
browsing and copy
yeah.
paste export and
I
because
wasn't
that time
so
can be
bad
spent.
on you. I was just asking some
Mhm.
typical testers questions, and it
I'm
looks
just, I'm
like
just
you.
giving you trouble. We're giving me trouble.
yeah.
I'm giving you trouble. It's because you know the problem, right? You're seeing the same things. I
Yeah.
just respond to them a little differently. I'm just going. I'm going to work with AI to solve the problems, and if AI collaborates more with me, I'm happy to collaborate with the AI
Mhm.
Yeah.
because it can give me feedback too.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Marcel asked for the next steps, but what is the main goal? What you would like to achieve? That now
Mine
you are
is
the
to
next step,
incorporate
but
espionage.
what is the main dream? What is the main dream with the Checkie?
The same dream I've always had, which is probably ridiculous. It's the same one as ever. It's every tester's dream. Everyone's thought the same thing. Very simple. What if the just code just tested itself? That's it. It's pretty simple. It's hard to do.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Um,
Okay.
Okay.
I would
but
close it here. with
Yeah.
that statement. I think this is
Yeah.
a good.
But we'll see. Check back in 3 years. I'll be manually testing for a local VHS video store company. But we'll see. I'm trying.
No, I
Yeah,
can't
yes.
believe that. Okay.
Yeah, we can move forward to the next or the last, section, and this is promotion. And if you would like to promote something or celebrate, now is your time.
I don't actually. When it's ready, it'll be ready. My goal is just test. My goal has always been it's stupid. I say it publicly. No one listens to me, but it's to test the world's software. I just think
I heard that. I heard
think-
that. You are
yeah, I
pretty
think
consistent with that.
right. And we tested. I'll tell you this. This is maybe a self attaboy thing then. A little AI panda. But
AI
like
Panda.
talk about
Oh.
myself and my accomplishments. But we actually like him. I gave him a hug in the food line at a conference recently. But no, at Google we had software. So the problem was anyway, like what happened to test AI? I was just focusing on this meta goal. We suddenly tried to make a business out of it. We were trying to figure out the hard problem first, and Google was a patient investor for that, which I appreciate him forever.
Yeah.
But with pre-GPT technology, it's been a game changer. We built a lot of cool stuff. We would test thousands of apps, Android, web, thousands of them a day, lights out lab, like 3 nines, and then stuff just retried and it worked, right? So really kind of almost 100, like almost infinite nines. And we sold that to Microsoft and Google. We were doing stuff that Microsoft and Google couldn't do. Okay. So it's not, and that's with earlier AI stuff. So my point is that we were getting close to that objective. But as soon as I got pulled toward selling to people that just wanted to drag and drop and needed a UI to custom craft individual test cases, which were not always that interesting, even if you looked at them, you're like, maybe you shouldn't be. Maybe there's other things to do with your time. Or just manually check it. Which is where the word comes from. Actually, I'll tell you. So that testing at scale, like had like a first go at it, and I'm making another go at it. That's what I should tell you. But it's legit stuff. These people have paid for it and invested in it. So the fun thing is this. I'll leave you to this one. You guys will get on this. So why did I call the company Checkie? There's a lot of reasons. I'll list a couple of them, not all of them. One was just that whole debate between just like a lot of people think that code can only check, it can't test. And it's just so embarrassing after GPT that's not embarrassingly not true. And it can come up with better test cases than people on this call have come up with. So that's kind of an inside joke a little bit. And then, I'll leave it at that. There's like 4 other ones that are pretty funny, I think.
Okay.
Okay, I'll maybe let's now close the recording, and then we can.
Now is your time. Maybe you can promote something.
Yeah, I would just like to thank you, Jason, that he joined us today, and I'm really happy that we finally got the chance.
Yeah.
Now I'll probably take a nap and then try to send you $1,000 not to publish this.
It'll be great. It'll be okay. It'll be great.
Yeah.
So
Well,
thank you very much for joining us, and we could now
that's
stop the recording.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jason.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Appreciate the patience with me.